Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. We're going to now turn to Sajdah Sahaw. Sajdah Sahaw is two prostrations for forgetfulness. And when do we perform them? We will talk about that in the following video. In this video, we're just going to speak about what is Sajdah Sahaw, and according to the four Imams, when should you do the Sajdah Sahaw? According to Imam Malik, performing prostrations of forgetfulness, the Sajdah Sahaw, are prostration of forgetfulness. When you are performing the prostration behind the Imam, even if followers have not made an error, so you would, if you're following the Imam does the Sajdah Sahaw, you would do it following the Imam, regardless of whether you made an error in your Salah or no. Mistakes on behalf of the follower put the Imam responsible as he's being followed. Okay, so you don't need to worry about that. The Imam is in charge. When you make an unintentional mistake, make two prostrations if you make a mistake after taslim, and recite the tashahhud at tahiyat, followed by the taslim again. So what does that mean? So you make two prostrations after you've said your taslim. So you finished and concluded the salah. You've concluded the salah, you perform your sajdah, so your sujood. You go down into sujood and come back up and go back down. And then you have to repeat the tahajjud. You should repeat it, and then you should conclude the sajdah sahaw with a second taslim. The prostration that you do before the salam taslim is after the tahajjud. So, for example, you've made a mistake, you read your tahajjud, you realized that you need to do sajdah sahaw, you complete the tahajjud, you go back into sujood, and then you do your other recitation, and then you would do your taslim. And that is before you're doing the taslim. If you're doing it after the taslim, you would go into sujood and repeat the tashahhud. And if you are doing it before the taslim, you do it after the tahajjud. Okay. And the two prostrations are sufficient for more than one error, except in a case where their errors are multiple. In that case, the salah will become invalid. If you miss something out of the prayer, you should do two sujoods before saying the salam, after having finished the tashahhud. Okay, so this is what the point we mentioned here. So, once again, you should perform two sujood before saying the salam after having finished the tashahhud. You then do the tashahhud again and say the salam. So before the taslim, after having finished the tashahhud, go back into sujood, do sajdah sahaw, then repeat tashahhud second time, then give your salam. If two sujood were not offered, they can be offered. So you concluded the salah, you're out of the salah, you now remember that you had made an error. So you can make a sajdah sahaw after you concluded the salah, as long as not a long time has lapsed. So if there's been a long period of time between you remembering and your salah, then you have two things. If it's a minor sunnah, you don't need to do anything. And if there's a long duration between the two, then your salah would need to be repeated according to the Maliki opinion. In accordance to Hanbali, adding something like a ruku or a prostration unintentionally requires any sajdah sahaw, two prostrations of forgetfulness. That's what sajdah sahaw means. If one accidentally adds an additional rak'ah, then he or she must sit down immediately. So that should say she, but it says he, which is obviously a typing error. So if one accidentally adds an additional rak'ah, you should. So for example, you are on the fifth rak'ah, and as soon as you stood up, you read your Fatiha. You are now reading a second surah from the Quran, and you remember that this is actually your fifth rak'ah. You don't complete it. You immediately sit down. If a person has made the taslim and remembered that they have missed some part of their prayer, then this must be made up for, and 2 prostrations of forgetfulness need to be added. If something was missed, then the tahashhud needs to be added. So, according to Imam Hanbali, just like Imam Malik, you have to repeat the tahashhud. If there is an action that is nothing to do with the prayer, and if it is a lot of it, then it does invalidate the salah. And this is something like opening a door or carrying a child. So if you do something that is not related to salah, any act, it doesn't nullify or doesn't break or invalidate what you're doing. But if you do it frequently, or if there's too much of those actions which are out of salah, then that will invalidate the prayer. So just like Maliki, Imam Ibn Hanbal says, you should repeat the tahashhud once you've offered the 2 prostrations. So you've done your salah, you do your 2 prostrations, and you have to repeat the tahashhud. Imam Abu Hanifa said that if there's an error in salah where you've done something extra and then an excess, something deficient, then you make 2 prostrations after the salutations, meaning after the taslim, after saying assalamu alaikum. You offer 2 prostrations after the taslim. You offer the tahashhud followed by the salutation. So what they're saying is, again, you offer 2 prostrations after the taslim. So you could do it after saying your taslim. So 2 prostrations after the salutations. Offer 2 prostrations after salutation. Offer the tahashhud followed by this salutation. So once you concluded the salah, you offer your salam. You offer the tahashhud and then you say the salam. This includes the salawat and the extra supplication that you do at the end of the salah. So for them, they are saying you have to basically repeat it all. So you do your first tahashhud. You conclude the salah, you say your taslim, assalamu alaikum to the right, assalamu alaikum rahmatullah to the left, and then you go back into sujood by doing the 2 prostrations. And once you've done that, you do your tahashhud, you do your salawat, and you do the extra supplication. What is binding is when an addition is made, when you add something, or you've neglected a wajib act, which is not as a fard act according to Hanfi madhab. So, excuse me, wajib would come under, so they divide it as obligatory and compulsory. So wajib act like omitting Fatiha. So for them, anything that's wajib and fard, it would be serious. It would be a serious mistake. So missing the Fatiha, Imam error becomes binding on the followers. If the Imam, so this is a wajib act. A wajib act is something like, wajib means something that's compulsory, is like missing the Fatiha. And that's when you Sajdah Sahaw becomes binding because you've missed something vital. But there's something additional you have to do when you miss a wajib act in Salah. Inshallah, we'll speak about that in the next video. Imam error becomes binding on the followers. If the Imam's done an error, he's being followed, so it's binding on you. Unless he does not make it, unless he does not make Sajdah Sahaw, in which case the followers do not have to offer it. If the Imam makes an error, he does not do Sajdah Sahaw, you also do not do Sajdah Sahaw. But if the Imam makes an error and he offers Sajdah Sahaw, you should follow him. So the followers do not offer. If followers make an error, then nor him nor the Imam will offer 2 prostrations because you're following the Imam. So if you make a mistake, you do not do anything about it. For example, if you complete 5, so if you complete, for example, say 5 rakats, this means, according to the Hanfi madhab, that your salah is nullified. Missing salutations requires 2 rakats. So if you missed your taslim, so say you've got up and concluded the salah, or you assumed that you've concluded the salah, but you did not say the taslim, or you said once the taslim. According to the madhab, you have to repeat, or it requires you to offer 2 rakats, 2 units. As 1 unit is not valid, so you have to read 2 units, and you need to make up for that salutation if you missed the taslim. Assalamu alaikum. Uh, According to the Shafi opinion, 2 prostrations of forgetfulness are required if something is omitted, meaning missed, or something is added. If one misses an integral part of the prayer, now this is very important. We talked about in the previous fatwa, or the previous Imam said, if you miss the Sunan, so Imam Malik. Now Imam Shafi is talking about the integral parts. So Salah is been divided into what is integral, which is the wajib or the fard, rukns we call them, which are compulsory and obligatory, and then you have those that are they constitute to being binding because they are close to being obligatory, and then there's those that are sunnah. So we're going to look at these in the next video. What causes us to do sajdah sahu? So what are the reasons for sajdah sahu? And the reasons are that when we miss an integral part of the salah, a compulsory part of the salah, or a sunnah part of the salah. So there's 3 parts we're going to have a closer look at. So if one misses an integral part, which is a rukn of a prayer, and remembers in the same rak'ah, then can perform it and at the end pray 2 prostration. Forgetfulness, for example, if you forgot a integral part, like Fatiha we just discussed, it is classified as Ummul Kitab. Omitting or deleting the Surah Fatiha recitation from your salah, according to the hadith, it invalidates your salah. So that rak'ah is automatically invalid. So what you would do is cancel that rak'ah that you're performing, and you will replace it with a new rak'ah. So you will begin the rak'ah again, and you will just cancel that previous rak'ah out. This is also the same if you are praying and you forget which rak'ah you're on. So for example, you are on rak'ah number 3 and you're confused whether this is rak'ah number 2 or rak'ah number 3. The only thing that you are certain about is that you've read the first rak'ah. That's the only thing you're certain about. You know that I have read the first rak'ah. In that case, you go with what you're certain about. If you're certain that you have prayed the first rak'ah, then you treat the rak'ah that you are performing as the second rak'ah, because the confusion has risen between the second and the third. Now, if you're sure that you've done the first rak'ah and the second rak'ah, and you are confused now between the third and the fourth, you don't know whether this is your third rak'ah or whether it's your fourth rak'ah, you then take what you're certain about. So you're certain that you've performed the second rak'ah, then you take it as that you've only offered the number that you're certain about. Okay, and then that will nullify the. So, for example, say that you're in doubt and you think that you've only offered 2 rakats, and in reality, you had offered the third, you were on the fourth, but you're confused, and then you start from the third rak'ah, but really should be on the fourth. It doesn't matter because you are in doubt now. So that rak'ah, it wipes out rak'ah number 4, it wipes out the previous rak'ah, and then you are starting with rak'ah number 3, and then you will do your rak'ah number 4. Okay, I hope that makes sense, inshallah. And that's what you do when you are not sure or in doubt. So if you are on a next rak'ah and you missed a pillar, just repeat this rak'ah so you make up for that pillar. If an integral part is omitted during Jama'ah, the person continues to follow the Imam and makes up for it after the Imam offers the salam, followed by the prostration of forgetfulness. So the person, if he's following in Jama'ah, the Imam is reading, the person behind the Imam, he forgets to say the tahashhud, or he makes a mistake, he's not said the Fatiha, and according to some schools you don't need to say the Fatiha if you're behind the Imam. In some schools you do need to say it. But say that you've missed an integral part, for example, you did not um, offer say the Fatiha, you didn't offer the Fatiha, or you didn't do the final tashahhud. You didn't do the final tashahhud. This is again an integral part of the salah. You continue with the imam till the end, and then when he offers this taslim, you follow it, you offer taslim with him, and then you get up and repeat what you've missed. Or if you joined the Jama'ah late and you missed 2 rakats, then you have to make up for them. So you wait for the Imam to finish off. He says his taslim, and then you stand up and you read what you missed. Now, I've seen this in Arab countries, I've seen it with many people. As soon as the Imam has concluded, the person hasn't followed the Imam, they don't say the taslim, and they raise up and they continue praying what they missed. This is a mistake. You should conclude your salah with the Imam. Some people are not concluding the salah with the Imam. They continue without saying the taslim. They continue by standing up straight away and reading, and that is a mistake. You need to conclude the salah and then move on to Sajdah Sahaw, or correcting your mistake. So you wait for the Imam, you offer the salam, and then you follow, you make up your mistake, and then you follow it with the prostration of forgetfulness, Sajdah Sahaw. If a main sunnah is missed, it requires prostration of forgetfulness according to Shafi. If a sunnah has been missed, you have to pray, and this is majority of the scholars say this. If an ordinary sunnah is missed, that is not a regular sunnah, then there's no prostration that is required. There are 2 incidents. Allah's Messenger, peace be upon him, after the second rakah of Dhuhr, he did not sit, and he stood up straight away. What does that mean? That means that he actually missed his tahajjud in the second rakah, because he got up after the second rakah of Dhuhr without sitting in between. That indicates, or is very clear, that he did not offer the tahajjud. When he finished the salah, the only thing that he did was perform 2 prostrations of sahu, forgetfulness, and then finished with the taslim. In the other hadith, again from Bukhari, when making up for 2 missed rakah, he made them up by performing taslim, then saying takbir by raising his hand, and performed, not raising his hands for the sajdah sahu. So he said takbir without raising the hand, performed sajdah sahu like an ordinary prostration. And remember, we said there is no raising of hands in between prostrations. He would raise his hand and say takbir, and then put his head down and performed a second prostration. So he's finished his salah. He's finished his salah. He says his takbir and he goes back down. Okay, he goes back down. So this is made up by performing the taslim, then saying takbir. So he's concluded the salah, he says his takbir, performs a prostration of sahu like ordinary prostration, raises his head and says the takbir the second time. He then lowers his head on the in the prostration and performed the second prostration and raised his head and said takbir. So he's and then he said his taslim. So this is Sajdah as-Sahu after the salah. So he has done Sajdah Sahu before taslim and after the taslim. So when he made up for the 2 rakats, he made them up by performing taslim, and then he said takbir. So he's done his taslim, he's concluded his salah, he's sitting in the sitting position, he says takbir, and he performs prostration number 1, and then he prostrates the second time, and when he lifts his head the second time, he is concluding it with the taslim, with the assalamu alaikum. In this hadith, the narrator says that according to the hadith of Abu Huraira, the tashhud should not should be recited. So once again, inshallah, based on the hadith of Abu Huraira, the tashhud does not need to be repeated after the 2 prostrations. So this is proof against the opinions of Maliki and Hanafi. We can use that hadith to say that tashhud does not have to be offered. So the Prophet performed 2 prostrations of Sahaw, finished his prayer with the taslim by turning his face to the right and left, saying Assalamu alaikum. And this is reported in Sahih al-Bukhari. And here the stress is 2 salutations, performing of 2 salutations, inshallah. But the Prophet also offered at one time 5 rak'ah instead of 4. After finishing, somebody had informed him, so he offered 2 prostrations of Sahaw after the taslim. So he had already concluded the salah and then offered 2 prostrations of Sajdah Sahaw and then did taslim again. In both these examples, Dahshad was not repeated. In Abu Hanifa's opinion, the Dahshad, the salutation, the Dahshad, the salawat, dua should be repeated before the salutations, but that's not the case in these opinions. Shawkani says the best is that stated on the subject is respecting the sujood before and after the taslim, so doing both, honouring the 2, because there was a dispute amongst the scholars whether the Sajdah Sahaw should be carried out before the taslim or after the taslim. And the taslim, as you know, is saying the Assalamu alaikum to the right and then the left. Now, if somebody does something that necessitates sujood before the taslim, then one should make it before the taslim. So if you've made a mistake and you have to correct it before, then you should correct it before the taslim. But if you've done something that requires the sujood after the taslim, then you should do it after the taslim. Now, what can require you to do the Sajdah Sahaw after the taslim? So we will look, some scholars have defined a very clear or very specific reasons when you should do the taslim before and after. So Ibn Masud adds in, there's a hadith here that we like to add, that the Prophet, peace be upon him, according to this narration, if one if one adds or decreases something from his salah, then he should make 2 sujoods, collected as in Sahih Muslim. Some scholars like Imam Ahmad say Sajdah Sahaw should be performed after, if there was an addition after the taslim. Here it means if you've added something, then you should perform Sajdah Sahaw after the taslim. But if you have deleted or omitted something, then you should perform it before the taslim. So where's this opinion come from? So they studied the hadith a little closer, and they said basically in these 2 narrations you see that there was an omission. There was an omission here. The hashad was not excuse me, that dashad was not read, so it's omitted. In this one, you see that 2 rakats were missed, 2 entire units. In this one, 1 rakah was added. So here, the prostration of Sajdah Sahaw were done after the taslim. In this, it was done before the taslim, and here it was done after. Now, what they've done is they've based it on this hadith and this hadith here in Bukhari, this one in particular, when they talk about, when this school talks about that when you've omitted something, okay, so if you've you perform it after the taslim. If you add something, if you omit excuse me, if you omit something, then it should be performed before the taslim. But here the Shawkani opinion is more authentic, even though there are a great number of scholars that do follow this. But here, I think the opinion here is accurate, that you should respect the sujood wherever the mistake was. If you do the mistake before and you remember it, you should do it before the sujood. If you remember it after, and then you should do it after the taslim. So it doesn't matter in which place you do it, because the Prophet did it both. He did it before the taslim and he did it after the taslim. And we know that he omitted in 2 occasions, and in both those occasions he did it once before and once after. So that argument that missing something necessitates you to do it before, that's not that argument is not valid, because there is 2 hadith that proved that he had omitted something in both these, so omitting the tahajjud and omitting 2 rakats. And in both of these examples, at one time he did the sajda sahu before the taslim, and in one example he did sajda sahu after the taslim. So he's actually done both when he omitted something. So it may be that that one hadith didn't reach Imam Ibn Ahmad, so he concluded on based on the 2 hadiths that he had. One way you omit, and one way you add something. Inshallah, that's clear. So you can do sajda sahur before and after the taslim. Okay, so you can do it either before or after. We will now turn to the causes of sajda sahur in our next video. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.